Hey guys, I just thought I'd share. I was looking for a way with native JavaScript and pure CSS to track elements and set attributes so you can control colors, display, whatever you like in a very uniform way using exactly the same code, regardless of what you want to achieve. So this is using no plugins, no dependencies, pure JavaScript and pure CSS. So the example I've got on the screen at the moment, I've got a image that's in a fixed position up the top right, and I'm going to, when I scroll to a certain point on the screen, it's going to hide that image. Scroll to another point, it's going to show the image. We've also got some headings, in this case heading up here, and when that gets within 5% of the top of the viewport, we're going to set our background color to red and our text color of this heading to white. I'm going to show you that right now. So I scroll up here, so you've got red and white, and how it does that, if we look at the body here, I've got a data attribute, data color mode, which is just changed to red. And then if I go further up, changes to green. I see my data color mode is changed to green. So my background's green and my text is yellow. And then I've got blue here. Show image, hide image, show image, hide image. So these here are basically setting data attributes on the body class using some JavaScript, which is common JavaScript regardless of what data attributes you want to set and what values you want to use. It's the same JavaScript. I'm going to show you how that works. It's pretty cool. The rest of it on the actual colors, the actual display, is all done with pure CSS. So let's have a look at how that's done. So if we look at the editor, the top of the structure here, I've just got a simple image. The only thing I've got on that image is layout, setting the position to fixed and setting it at the top right. So I just wanted to stay there as I scroll. And in the CSS, all I'm doing is saying if we've got the attribute of data hide image equals true, preceding our root, in this case I'm just doing it on the ID, then set the display to none. So when that is added anywhere above our root, so this will be on the body class, when that's added to the body class, then we want to set our display to none. So if that equals false, this rule doesn't apply. Equals anything other than true, this rule doesn't apply. So it's as simple as what we need for controlling the display of that image. So you could have multiple images, you could have tables, you could have headings, you could have certain things that when a certain element gets to a certain part of the viewpoint, hide or show, change the size, change the color, whatever you like. And it's just with pure CSS. So let's look at the other part of this, which is, let's look at the first heading, which is our one here, which is basically a standard heading. In the style, come back to the CSS, and the attributes, all I'm doing is adding a attribute called data-body-at, and I'm using a camel case for the data attribute. So this is color mode. The reason we use camel case is going to access this with JavaScript, and JavaScript changes the names to camel case when you use a hyphenated lowercase. I'll show you what I mean. If I go to the, see this here, this data color mode, so data-color-mode in HTML in JavaScript translates to color mode in camel case. So that's what we put here as our camel case of what this value here would be. All right, so that's the attribute and this is the value. So the data body at value, that's the value we want to apply to that attribute when this element comes into a particular part of the viewport. So that's it. And then the next heading is exactly the same attribute, different value. So this one's the green. Okay, let's go down to the show image. In this case, our data body at is hide image. We look at our DOM, data hide image. And in this case, we want to set that to false because we don't want to hide the image. Okay, and on the hide image, exactly the same attribute. the value on that would be set to true. So when this particular element, I've actually got it set to 5% of the top of the viewport. When this element gets into 5% of the top of the viewport, it's going to set the hide image attribute to true. Let's have a look here. If I go, I'm watching this data hide image is now true. Okay, we go back and say show image, hide image is now false. And that's exactly what we want. So this is all we need to do to track an element and change a body attribute. The rest of it is CSS. So for this particular one, for changing your colors, if we look at the CSS on this BG color aware class, when we have a body with the data color mode as red, set our background color to red. When we have the attribute of data color mode equals red preceding our class, we want to set our color to white. So this is for the body, and this is for the element that we're tracking. So pretty simple, right? Straightforward CSS. I think it's great. Now, the only other part to this is the JavaScript to make this happen. And with this, I'll put a code block at the bottom of the editor here. And there's my code there, too small to read and here to go through. So I've copied this into VS Code. And we're just going to quickly run through this. Always put your code inside a closure so you avoid any clashes with names. Now, what we're doing here, we're waiting for the DOM content to load. The reason we do that is because we may put this script anywhere. It could be taken out of this editor, could be put into an external file, it could be put into a code manager, and we don't want this to run before all of the elements are on the DOM that we want to track. So we wait for the DOM content to load, get a reference to our document's body, some options here. Have a look up, just search Google for intersection observer. It is a browser API, so there's no dependencies. This is built into every browser. We don't need to load jQuery or anything else to make this work. This is all native JavaScript code using the browser APIs, which in this case is the intersection observer. Now, the intersection observer, basically your root is the box that you want to track the elements within. If you set it to null, it's the entire viewport. But you could do a fixed position box in the center of the screen, and you can track as elements move in and out of that box. We just want to track the main viewport, so we set that to null. The root margin. This is a same as your CSS for margin and padding, where it's top, right, bottom, left. Has to be percentage or pixels, or it doesn't work. Okay. And what we're doing is we're saying when our element is within 0% of the top of the viewport, or minus 95% from the bottom of the viewport. So basically giving us a 5% window at the top. So we only want to track when these elements, so that there, hide image, when that gets within 5% of the top of the viewport here, which is why we're doing minus 95% from the bottom. Okay, and then the threshold is how much of the element needs to be in the box. So 0.001% of this hide image heading is within that box, then it's considered to be intersecting. If we set it to 1, the whole element, so this whole heading has to be within 5% for that to be intersecting. Okay, so I generally use just a low number and control that with these percentages here. So we wanted that to move down, which I'll show you a little bit later. We can move this further down the screen if we wanted to. Intersection callback we'll come back to. We create a observer with again, this is a native browser API, not a dependency. So we create a new intersection observer, which says we're going to call this callback here, which is that function there, with those options. That's the intersection observer. We then get a collection of all of the items that have data body at. Okay, if we go back to here, every one of these that we're tracking. So for example, if I go to the container here, go to our style, attributes, we've got a data body at. So this is one we want to track. Okay, so get all of those, iterate through every one of them. So we're going to pass the element in E. So each of those elements that it finds is going to be E. And we're going to tell the observer to observe that element. So all we're doing is saying all of these headings that we've got there that we're tracking. It doesn't have to be a heading, it could be anything. All of those, we want this observer to observe that element based on these properties. Okay, so whenever that element is within 5% of the top of the view, then I want to call this intersection callback. And what this does, it because more than one element that's being tracked could be intersecting at the same time, what it does is it sends a collection of all the elements that are intersecting or non-intersecting. So we're going to iterate through each of those. Passes in what they call the entry. Look up just do a Google search for intersection observer, and you'll see exactly what they say. An entry object has an is intersecting property, which means that in this case, our element is within 5% of the top of the viewport. So if it's intersecting, we're going to get the target from the entry, which would be the actual element. We're going to get the data property from target, data set, body at. So again, body at here. So what's happening here? So this here, data-body dash at in JavaScript is accessed through dataset dot camel case body at. So we're going to get the attribute, we're going to get the value, and on the body we're going to set the property to the value. So this could be anything you like. This same JavaScript can be used to track anything you like and add any data attribute to the body. So it will change any data attribute on the body. So that's pretty much how this works. So I think it's a cool way of doing it because it's universal. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's the same code. And it's all modern code. It's all ES6 using browser APIs, native JavaScript, no dependencies. So I think it's a great way to do it. All right, so that's pretty much it. I hope it's something that you can use in your code. And if you like this sort of thing, hit the subscribe, hit the like. Thank you.